All right, so we're looking at the practice sheet for your quiz on Friday. Of course, I know some of you guys are going to be in beta. You owe me a quiz. I don't know what to tell you. Solve this thing using the quadratic formula. Simplify your radical. So hopefully you know the quadratic formula. If you don't, write this down because you get to use it. Goes x equals negative b plus or minus square root. Boy, my voice is off. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Of course, a is 3. B is -2, and C is 6. And we're just going to feed this formula, kids. Nothing more than feed a formula. All right, so opposite of a -2 is a +2, and it's x equals, by the way, plus or minus the square root of, good practice to wrap a negative, minus 4 times A times C, all sitting pretty, over twice of 3. And let's figure out what's a net radical. Let's assume that I don't know how to do math in my head. So inside that radical is a -2 squared minus 4 times 3. Notice I'm not typing the square root symbol in. Times 6 is a -68. So I have 2 plus or minus the root of a -68. Both pieces over 6 because 2 times 3 is 6. Now, the square root of a -68 is, first off, imaginary. 68 ends in an 8. It's likely divisible by 4. So it's going to be the imaginary root of 4 times the root of 17. And the root of 4 is 2. So 2i root 17. 2 over 6 is 1 over 3. Let's put this 2 in place. 2i root 17 over 6. And you can still do that reduction. We get 1/3 plus or minus the imaginary root of 17 also over a 3. And those are your two answers. Number 2, you'll notice I have the instruction set off to the right. The quiz won't have this. So it's in your best interest, again, to have this sheet and do this sheet. I combined steps 1 and 2 just so I would have less stuff written down. But we're going to move that over. That's going to make it negative. And we're also going to divide everything by that too. It's going to give me x squared minus 4x equals a -1. Now we're going to take half of b, which is -4. Taking half of that, you get -2. We're going to square that and get a +4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And we're going to add that to both sides. Oh, good. We don't have to simplify the radical. This factors as x minus 2, because that was what half of b is, quantity squared. -1 and 4 makes 3. The opposite of squaring has always been square rooting. Don't forget your plus or minus symbol. A square root cancels out a square. X minus 2 is plus or minus the root of 3. Symbol shifts. X is 2 plus or minus the root of 3, which you can write as 2 plus root 3 or 2 minus root 3. It's up to you, but it's super easy. Just follow the instruction set, kids. Or don't, whatever. 3, you can use either the double distributive property or the box method. I'm just going to do the box method. For one, I'm a little disoriented today. I think I have a head cold. And my ability to self-organize is not what it usually is. I'll put x plus 3 on here and x squared minus 4x plus 5 along the top. Now, x times x squared has always been x cubed. X times -4x is -4x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times -4x is -12x. And 3 times 5 is 15. And the diagonals are like terms, so put them together. You have a singular x cubed. You have a -x squared. You have a -7x because you can add, and then plus 15. Super easy. All right, to do 4 and 5, and again, you get to use this thing on your quiz. So it might be in your best interest to write down this pattern. This is something cubed minus something cubed. And something cubed minus something cubed is equal to something minus something times something squared plus something times something plus something squared. That's the formula. All right, so when I see an 8x cubed, what I see is I see a 2x that's cubed. And when I see a 27, I see a 3 that's cubed. So A is 2x and B is 3. And then I'm just going to plug into my little formula. That's all I'm going to do. So it's going to be 2x minus 3 This says square 2x. 2x times 2x is 4x squared because you square both pieces. Plus because there's a plus. 2x times 3 is 6x. Plus because there's a plus. It says b squared, right? 3 times 3, 9. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It does not say solve. It simply says factor. All right. Number 5, we have a sum of two cubes. This is something cubed plus something cubed, which factors as something plus something times something squared minus the product of those two somethings plus the last something squared. All you gotta do is memorize. All right, so what do I see? I see a 3x that's cubed plus a 5 that's cubed. Everywhere I see an A, I'm a 3x. Everywhere I see a B, I'm a 5. I could have swore I'm changing to black. I'm just going to plug in, kids. 3x plus 5. If you take a 3 times 3, you get a 9. You take an x times an x, you get an x squared. 3 times 5 is 15. Minus because there's a minus. Plus because there's a plus. 5 times 5 is 25 because we're squaring. Easy peasy again. This stuff ain't hard. Number 6, we have words. Ruh-roh, things that we can't read. Widgets Incorporated has determined their revenue function is, revenue as a function of x is negative x cubed plus 12x squared minus 20x. And their cost function is, cost as a function of x is 2x plus 5, where x is the number of units made in thousands. Determine their profit function. P.S. Profit is revenue minus cost. So the profit as a function of x would be this guy, negative x cubed plus 12x squared minus 20x. Take away that guy. And if there's 2 or more things, the 9th commandment of math is to wrap. Otherwise, you'll mess up on the distributive property and you'll miss parts 2, 3, and 4. I hate that, but you will. Anyways, and not everybody will get this part right, which means you'll miss 2, 3, and 4. So anywho, you got a negative x cubed. You have a plus 12x squared. And you don't need to mess this part up. A negative 20 minus 2 is negative 22x. And then we have the minus 5. You need to make sure that you get that part right, or you miss parts 2, 3, and 4. You do. It's just the way it is. Determine to the nearest whole number the interval of units that must be reduced to be profitable. So since this is profit, I know that it has to be bigger than 0. This is the idea. It has to be bigger than 0. So we're going to y1 and y2 that bad boy. That's a cube. Let's fire up my trusty TI-84 here. 0 and y1, negative x to the third, plus 12x to the second, minus 22x, minus 5. We'll do a zoom 6, but it'll be probably useless. We'll have to play with the window. Because you have some common sense, right? Hope so. I need to see this maximum that's happening somewhere up there. So I'm going to go to Window. Actually, I don't have to see it, but I know I need it for parts 3 and 4. I'm going to set my Y max to be 100. See if I can see that maximum. And it says to the nearest whole number, the interval of units that must be produced to make a profit. And let me take a snip of this graph here so you can comprehend what I'm trying to relay to you. I can highlight the region of space that matters. That's something I can do. I care about the x values that draw this. That's what I care about, those x values. So second, trace 5 for intersect. Get my cursor close to here and press enter 3 times. It says to the nearest whole units. So it looks like I want 3 on this side. And what's over here? Second, trace 5. Now this is in thousands, by the way. Let me write that number down. Let me go over that again. Second, trace 5. Enter, enter, enter. This is going to be a skill for some they're going to stink with, because x is in thousands, and we have 2.532. If I'm going thousands, I want to round to the third decimal place. Second, trace 5 again. Find this guy over here. Enter, enter, enter. And I got 9.672. Look at the rounding. After that 1, there's a 9, 9.672. Now, those are thousands. And, I know not everybody can do basic math in your head, bless you. But if I take 2.532 and I multiply it by 1,000, don't be surprised that I get 2,532. And the other one was 9.672, and those are in thousands, so I have to multiply by 1,000, and I get 9,672. So the interval here is that I'm going to be between 2,532 and 9,672, brackets on that, or I might do something like this, 2,532, comma, less than equal to x, less than equal to 9,672. Either one of those is an acceptable way of answering the question. I don't care which one you use. I don't intend on making this multiple choice because that takes a lot longer to make two versions of. All right, the x value to the nearest whole number that produces the maximum number. I actually want the x value. I'm going to change that wording before I hit print. The number of widgets that produces the maximum profit is going to be the question. So back to my trusty old TI-84. I'm going to hit, I've already got it graphed, by the way. I'm going to hit second trace 4 because I'm maximizing. And I'm going to get to the left of the maximum, which means I have to be on the red curve. I'm going to hit the up arrow to get there. Get left, press enter. Get right, press enter. And then enter for a guess. Now, by the way, I had to hit the up arrow here. You can also just clear this out and not worry about that. I'll go through the process again. I cleared out Y1 because I didn't need that part anymore. So second trace maximum again. And I'll get the same thing I did last time. There's my cursor. I'm going to the right of the maximum. I'm pressing enter. Now I'm going to the left of the maximum and I'm pressing enter. And I'm going to go to the middle by guessing. I just pressed enter again. I got 6.944. And again, I'm going to change this wording by the time you see it. But x is about 6.944. And again, that's in thousands, right? So that's 6,944. The maximum profit, which is also in thousands, would be the y value. You see it right there, 86.028. And again, we're going to multiply by 1,000, which would be 86,028, and that'd be dollars, presumably. Presumably, this is an American company. So presumably, it's dollars. I mean, we are in America. Question's written in English. Doesn't make sense that it's Italian. All right, I'll be right back. Maybe. Feeling pretty sleepy. Now, this particular problem, you got your choice of how you do number 7. There is a form for this. It's a squared minus b squared, and it factors as a minus b times a plus b. Now, if you use that idea, you have a 3x that's squared minus a 4 that's squared, and then you just plug in. And I've been kind of teaching this to you by just using your gut, because your gut's probably right. I would say, how do you make a 9x squared? And you'd say 3x and 3x. And then I'd say, how do you make a 16? You'd say 4 and 4. And then how do you add a 0? One's positive, one's negative. And that's how it factors. 8 is a factoring by grouping problem. So I'm going to focus on these two pieces. I notice that they both contain a 2 and they both contain an x squared. Now, if I pull a 2x squared from 4x to the 4th, there is going to be a 2x left. Because 2x squared times 2x is 4x cubed. If I pull it from 2x squared, there's going to be a 1 left because I need that placeholder there as some idea. 2x squared times 1 is 2x squared. Now, minus, because there's a minus, I'm going to pull the negativity out. This won't be negative 2x minus 1 anymore, it'll be 2x plus 1. Think about that. Minus 2x minus 1. Now that you've gone from 4 terms to 2 terms, the common factor is 2x plus 1. And the stuff left over is 2x squared minus the understood 1. That one is understood. That's hard for kids to understand. You have to understand the understood. Then you have 2x squared minus 1. And this one does not factor anymore. It'd be cool if it did, but it doesn't. That's as far as this one goes. Doesn't go any farther. All right, factor f of x equals 6x cubed plus 19x squared plus 2x minus 3 into linear factors if f of negative 3 is a 0. This means a couple of things. It means x is negative 3, and it also means that x plus 3 is the factor. So when we get down to our factorization, x plus 3 is going to be part of it. Now, since it's nice and simple and I know what the x value is, I get to use synthetic division. Remember your acronym, drop, multiply, and add. Coefficients are a 6, a 19, a 2, and a negative 3. A 0 is expected. We drop the 6. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. That was the multiplication. When we add, we get a 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. 2 plus a negative 3 is negative 1. Negative 3 times negative 1 is 3. We get a 0. Wow, that was quick. Moving forward, the remainder, constant, x squared. We are left with 6x squared plus x minus 1. I'm going to write that down. And I hope it continues to factor. Let me get some stuff out of the way here. I need this completely out of my way. There we go. Does 6x squared plus x minus 1 factor some more? I bet she does. Let's see, it takes a 3x and a 2x likely to make a 6x squared. And probably a 1 and a 1 to make a 1, right? Now I want to add to x, so let's do this. The outside makes 3x. The inside makes negative 2x, and by God, 3x minus 2x is x. So in addition to the first factor, x plus 3, I also have the additional factors 3x minus 1, and then 2x plus 1. Super easy, bro. Super easy. If you can factor. If I was a Greek god, I'd be the Greek god of factoring. Number 10, find the zeros and state their multiplicity. So multiplicity comes by looking at exponents on the factor. Of the factor. So let's talk about our factors. We have x plus 1 to the second. We have x minus 1 to the third. And then we have x to the second minus 10, perhaps. But that is to the understood first power. Now, if this is my factor, x plus 1 is a 0, which means x is negative 1. Its multiplicity is 2. That comes from the exponent. And even multiplicity touches the x-axis. All right, I have a factor of x minus 1, so my 0 is x minus 1. I shift right, I get x is 1. Its multiplicity is 3, and again, that comes from that exponent. An odd multiplicity crosses the x-axis. Moving forward, I have a factor x squared minus 10, so x squared minus 10 is 0, which means that x to the second is 10, which means that x is plus or minus there we go. Oh, well, since I've been over here. Plus or minus, and I don't have a square root key. And it's going to be funny, like how many of you actually write squirt? You should not write squirt 10. Use the square root symbol. You know the square root symbol. If you write squirt 10, that tells me you don't know what the square root symbol looks like. That's what that means. Anyways, the multiplicity for both is 1, because look at that exponent right there. So at positive square root of 10 and the negative square root of 10, we cross the x-axis. Such an easy problem. By God, it's going to get missed. All right, number 11. Going to be bad. It's long division. It is. Going to be bad. Not much I can do about that. All right, so here we have a normal vinculum. We're dividing by x squared plus 1. I do not see the need for placeholders. I know I need to hurry up. I've got 14 minutes. All right, first goal. Takes a 3x to make this true, because 3x times x squared is 3x cubed. 3x times 1 is 3x. Oop, I need to put that in the right spot. 3x times 1 is 3x. I need to put it over there with x's. X's, like terms with like terms. Right before you subtract. The x cubes will cancel. We're going to have to bring this down. And 4x minus 3x is a singular x. Now to turn an x squared into a negative 2x squared, I need a negative 2. Negative 2x squared minus 2. I also need to bring this guy down. Right before I subtract, the x squareds cancel. I'm left with an x. Negative 1 minus a negative 2 is positive 1. And you're not going to be able to turn x squared into x using positive exponents. So this is my remainder. I have x plus 1 pieces of x squared plus 1. Bam! Done. Hopefully it's going to be a good grade. There's 3 to go. I'll be right back. I need to check my phone. All right, so we are modeling Johnny again. This time this crazy idiot has decided to join a circus. On opening night, he's going to walk a tightrope 300 foot in the air. Part of his routine is to jump and land on the tightrope. Assuming Johnny jumps upward at a rate of 12 feet per second and misses the tightrope, because this is Johnny. Model his equation. All right, so there's my velocity and there's my height. Don't be the kid who misses this. It basically means you can't read. When you miss questions like that, that's what you're telling us. Kids, I mean this. If you can't read, come talk to me. I will try to teach you how to read. If I can teach my own kids how to read, I can teach you how to read. I can. Come find somebody. The most important thing you can ever learn how to do is to read and write. I wish I had better penmanship. I actually do, but I don't. Anywho, at what time will Johnny be at the max height above the ground? What is max height? The idea here is you use your TI-84, kids. That's the idea. So let's pull up our trusty TI-84. Let's go to y equals and put that negative 16x to the second. Hopefully some of y'all that haven't figured out how to use these things are by now. We use them constantly. You should probably figure out how to use them. Don't need anything in y2. Zoom 6 as you were trained. And you're going to have to look up. I mean, Johnny was literally on a 300-foot tightrope. Plus he jumped. So let's set the y max to about 320, which should ought to do it, because I don't know of a single person alive who's got a 20-foot vertical jump. Be pretty impressive, wouldn't it? Then hit the graph key. And you can find a maximum using a TI-84 at second trace where everything is. Second trace 4 for maximum. We're going to get left of the maximum, press enter. We're going to get right of the maximum and press enter. And then we're going to press enter one more time for guess. And we have the x value and we have the y value. The x value is 0.375 seconds. So time is about 0.375, and this is in seconds. And the height is 302.25 foot. Pretty good jump there. You had a 2 1/4 vertical jump. Did I round right? A little jittery. Yeah. All right, now you get to decide. Does he hit the safety net 25 feet above the ground, or does he go splat on the concrete floor? Now, they both have different setups. If you go with the safety net, I've already got this equation in y1. So we're going to say negative 16t squared plus 12t plus 300 equals 25. Or if he hits the concrete, and again, you're deciding, I'm not going to be the one who sets your moral compass. We're going to be equal to 0. So let's do the safety net, and then we'll do the ground. We're going to put a 25 in Y2. Just going to hit the graph key because our window should be perfect. This answer over here, where time is negative, is your extraneous solution. I don't want it. We're going to hit second trace, maybe 5 for intersect. And I'm just going to take my little cursor and I'm going to hit that right arrow until she gets close and enter, enter, enter. 4.538 seconds. And Johnny is safe, and Johnny gets to live again and do something else crazy. I'm actually running out of things for Johnny to do. All right, say you want Johnny to go splat because you're tired of Johnny. Second trace 5. His superpower, by the way, is that he is evidently immortal because he has lived through everything. We just need an origin story, don't we? All right, we're going to get down here close. I hit second trace 5, enter, enter, enter. 4.721. Double squiggly, by the way, means about or approximately. So 4.271 seconds, and he goes, he's gone. R.I.P. Johnny. The volume of a box is given as volume as a function of x is negative 3x cubed minus 135x plus 44x squared minus 50. Two of the dimensions, the factors are given. Find the remaining dimensions, aka the factor. All right, so this would say that x is 5. 3x plus 1 is a 0. 3x is negative 1. This would say that x is negative 1/3. And we're just going to do some synthetic division. Our coefficients are negative 3, negative 1/30. Whoa, that's out of order there. I don't know why I did that. I'll leave it that way. 44, negative 135, and negative 50. And hopefully I don't need to check my work on this one. Yeah, I just wrote it down wrong. I'm going to do the 5 first because it's easier. We drop, remember DMA. We drop the negative 3. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. 44 plus a negative 15 is negative 31. Oh, that's wrong. Negative 29. 5 times negative 29 is going to be negative 150. Negative 195. Something seems wrong. That's positive. 145. Negative 135 plus 145 is 10. 5 times 10 is 50. And I got a 0 as was expected because it was a factor. That's one of the things I was doing behind the scenes. I noticed I'd made a mistake because I wasn't going to get a 0. And this time we'll do the negative 1/3. And feel free to push buttons in the calculator. But negative third of a negative 3 is a 1. 29 plus 1 is 30. Negative 1/3 times 30 is negative 10. And a 0, which is my remainder, which is preceded by a constant, which is preceded by an x. So the missing factor is that which is not quite right. This actually is not the missing factor. But you have negative 3x plus 30. That's not the missing factor. Here's one of the flaws in synthetic division, and it is a flaw. If this was a negative 3x times 3x is negative 9x. So I'll rewrite your quiet test so this isn't a problem. The missing factor is negative x plus 10, which would be 10 minus x. Synthetic division has its flaws, and that's one of them. But whatever you get is okay. It is. It is. Promise you. Moving forward to the last one. The following information is known about f of x. F of negative 3 is a 0, f of 1 is a 10, f of 0 is a 0, f of 3 is a 2, f of 4 is a 0, and a is negative 2. Write the polynomial in factored form. All right, so this means that the factor is, what happens to signs? They flip, not a 0. This would be x minus 0, which means that the factor is x, not a 0. This would be x minus 4. And is that all of them? And then a goes up front. Best written as negative 2x times x minus 4 times x plus 3. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, there's your practice sheet for your quiz. Hopefully you understood 95% of it.